Good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back, guys, for what is going to be your daily cryptocurrency market update. And they haven't been so daily this week. I have had the Rona, however, a flu really. However, hopefully I am getting back to normal. And again, very quickly, I do appreciate all the messages and thoughts, and even some prayers mixed in there. Not that I necessarily need them, but they're appreciated. Albeit, you guys are why this channel exists, and it is very heartwarming to see. So, what are we going to be getting up to in this video? It's not been too much of a bad week to be ill, and I don't usually get ill, because the market's not really been doing a lot. Bitcoin's kind of stalling at this 0.238 on the fib. You've ran into this little bit of resistance here, and ultimately I think it's going to set up structure. There could be a little bit more sideways, even a slight leg down before flushing people out to the upside, before we see that continuation to 35k. I'm very, very set on 35k being a target, and I filmed an interview with Francis Hunt the other day that I'll be releasing probably over the weekend, where we get into a number of really interesting things. And actually, there's a lot of reason to suspect that Bitcoin is looking for upside and technically looks very, very positive. So we always cover the technicals. We have a structure and a plan laid out in front of us. And this is something that we've not deviated from. We took a position back into the markets here and are still looking to ride it to the upside. Also, altcoins, which still have to come into their own. They will do that. However, we need to see that Bitcoin dominance sort of start to roll. It's been persistently strong with the total market cap continuing to go up. So we're going to cover this as always. I still think we're in this kind of 2019 into 2020-esque period for crypto. But I also want to touch on some sort of macro stuff, because there's a lot going on. We know that the main driver of markets was interest rates going up. Interest rates were going up for inflation. And then all of a sudden there was a spanner thrown in the works with Silicon Valley Bank. This caused them to actually undo 2/3 of what they did in terms of QT, sorry. And I think it's QE. I think when they add to something after taking away from it, that's QE. If QT was them taking away from their balance sheet, I think adding to it is QE. Okay? Many people disagree with me on that and don't quite see it. And they say, well, it's not the same as QE that's come previously. In my opinion, whenever you're putting money into the economy and the central bank are doing that, that's QE. That's my stance on it. You're welcome to argue with me on it. It's just how I view it. And ultimately, we have seen a slight reduction now in the balance sheet again, as we see the Silicon Valley Bank and the kind of banking crisis calm down. This is actually what we want for that continuation to the upside. So I think Bitcoin even stands a bloody good chance of getting to up here to the sort of 40Ks, providing the Fed don't pivot and bring rates down. Now, that's going to sound strange to many, many people, but you know what happens to markets when the Fed pivot. Now, a pivot is coming. The 2-year yields, and we've got loads to get into, guys, is certainly telling us that. Remember we called this with the divergence. We said it's, again, similar to 2000. There's lots of similarities to 2018 here. But what we want from the Fed funds is we want the Fed funds to go sideways. And that's going to essentially, you can see this leads, and it's not until it's, significantly further down that you actually get the pivot. But typically the pivot's quite bad for markets. But we actually want the Fed funds to just go sideways, which I think there's a very good chance of it doing. However, BlackRock don't necessarily agree with that. We're going to touch on that. We're going to touch on a number of things, guys, because there's a lot of interesting stuff taking place. We've also got inflation coming out. It's the end of the month, so we are going into April. We'll get the inflation numbers for March. I think they're going to be lower. However, in Europe, they were lower, significantly lower in March. However, core inflation hit record highs. So some really interesting things going on. We also have Michael Burry saying, I was wrong to sell. Remember his last tweet where he essentially said that, essentially a pivot is now happening, and we have similar sort of situations to 2018. But we want markets, this is blue, the S&P, or we want the Fed funds to do this, go sideways. So it's still yet to top out. And you can see from the point it topped out to where it went sideways, I think this is to come. I honestly do. And I think you could have a 6, 12 plus month window where markets actually do quite well. Can you see this pivot here? Or not pivot, sideways? Up until, you know, they had to really bring things. So I want the Fed fund to do this. I want the yields to continue to climb down. And I think they will. You know, that's the direction we're set on. And I think the market will do that. I think you could even get a new high in the markets, to be honest. I genuinely do think that at this point, until the shit hits the fan and maybe we end up in some sort of a March 2020 style situation. So the fact that the banking sort of #banking crisis is being cooled down and they're sort of back to Q, it's not really QT. It's very marginal in regards to and people always over dramatize everything in the markets. It's why it's so important to be in a group like the one that I have or some of the others out there, so that you don't get sort of thrown around and blown around in the wind. But ultimately, we want a sort of quieting. You know, we'll see, and they've kind of almost telegraphed this. We'll see where the rates get us, and we're going to be data driven. And if we get that lower print in for March, it's likely that they're going to keep rates where they are. And I think market's going to do very well under those conditions, like they historically have. And ultimately, I think this is the journey we're on, guys. I think we're in this kind of 5-wave impulse. You know, whether we have some sort of an A, B, C correction after this is still to be seen. You know, that could come on the back end of whatever the yield curve's predicting and some stuff like this. You know, there's some great calls out there from Francis talking about, you know, gold, 2,900. What does that mean for Bitcoin? You know, gold's looking extremely strong. Bitcoin's looking strong. Dollar's looking weak. Yields are looking weak. You know, there's a whole kind of correlation of things going on here. I haven't done too much analysis on the S&P. However, that's something that I will be looking to do. You know, the S&P doesn't look too bad at all, in my opinion, and it looks to be sort of rounding and bottoming out after, again, that bearish, bullish divergence that you got on the RSI. So this is the path that we think Bitcoin's on. We think the macro actually supports it, and people are going to say, well, what are you on about? We're still tightening and stuff like this. Yeah, kind of. You know, I don't think they're going to do another rate hike. I think they're probably going to leave rates at 5%. Even if they did a 2.5, I think the last 2.5 they did, they only did it because they had to. They couldn't really not. Otherwise, markets would have gone full send. But this is the journey that I think we're on. Now let's get into a little bit of news. Cryptocurrency market is currently at $1.17 trillion. This was interesting. Now, this is the tune that we've been singing the whole time for crypto, that it is the next big thing. Everything's going to run on the blockchain. And this is from Citi. Killer use case. Citi says trillions in assets could be tokenized by 2030. The bank predicts the private equity market to become the most tokenized asset class because it's more liquid and can be fractionalized. Investment bank Citi is betting on the blockchain-based tokenization of real-world assets to become the next killer use case in crypto, with the firm forecasting the market to reach between $4 to $5 trillion. So Citi's obviously in America. There needs to be regulations for this. We're seeing a big push for regulations. The SEC is a friggin' joke, guys. I mean, it is such a... It's comical how much of a joke it actually is. They don't even know what they're calling a commodity and a security anymore. That's why we back things like Polkadot, for example, that have already been classified as software. Well, this is certainly interesting. You know, this is opportunity, non-financial corporate and quasi-sovereign debt, 100. You can see the sort of money that, this doesn't mean the crypto market has to be here, but there's the kind of value that's going to be secured on the blockchain. And this will not be secured on Bitcoin, by the way. This is going to be secured on your layer ones, layer zeros, you know, what's being built out of that. And I think that is amazing, you know. I really do. I think that this is coming, and this is why we're a lot more bullish on layer ones and smart contract protocols than we are the likes of Bitcoin. However, with the banking crisis, #banking crisis and everything, Bitcoin has really had its moment in the sun. The BlackRock predicts more rate hikes, possible short-term volatility for crypto. The world's largest asset manager expects the Fed to continue hiking rates. Wow. With potential short-term consequences for crypto. So there's this constant readjusting of markets pricing in rates and the Fed not having a clue what they're doing and just, you know, being very much victim to the overall situation that they caused in the first place. I'm set on this, guys. This is what we've been set on. We've been right so far. We're right to get out the market up here, right to get into it here, and ultimately we're going to see what happens. You know, I think the macro is very much changed, whether they want to call it a bailout or not a bailout, and ultimately, I think crypto is going to excel. And you got to remember, actually, you've got an election year coming up next year. Crypto is going to be a weapon in that. And I think actually you could see them, you know, some of the candidates lean friendly towards it in the run up to that. You got to remember these guys use you and your emotions against you. So the Eurozone price rises cool significantly in March, but core inflation hits record highs. This is certainly interesting. I do think we're going to get lower CPIs for the US in March. I think that could fuel markets. I skip this very quickly, but Pentagon. Mine Bitcoin to stay superpower. Space Force Major. If I was the US, why wouldn't you? Okay, yeah, you give the credibility to Bitcoin. But are you really that insecure that your superpower, the greatest power in the world, is cowering to Bitcoin? You have the might to literally stop it in its tracks if you wanted to. Why would you not mine it and become the largest hash power in the game? But this is interesting. This is from a Space Force Major. Space Force Major. Very intergalactic, isn't it? This is from, of course, Michael Burry. I was wrong to sell. What does he mean? Certainly very interesting. Or he says he was wrong to say sell. I think he knows that essentially the currency system is now moving into death spiral. You know, this is very much where we're at. It took the United States 215 years to rack up a total debt of $7 trillion. It took them 2 years to do that from March 2020 onwards. And this is where we're at right now, guys. We're in the end of the fiat systems. For this June, Hong Kong official institutions and private investors to buy crypto. The same people that were restricted to participate in the stock market are now allowed to buy crypto. Beautiful. Do you remember when I called 2023 the year of the Chinese? They're not sure about this guy's. I don't know who this guy is, but I found this very, very interesting. And certainly, if this is true, you know, we did see some news out of Hong Kong that they're going to allow certain participants to play in the crypto space. That would certainly be very bullish. Now, I think crypto's got a very. You've got this window of opportunity. Make no mistake that something's coming down the line. But whether that's 6 months, whether that's 12 months, whether that's 24 months, what are you going to do? Sit on the sidelines and watch people like myself make money? You know, you've got to be in it to win it. Don't be too stupidly in it. I think Bitcoin's largely stalling. Okay, we don't want to risk to reward. But you can see where Bitcoin literally perfectly ran into. Get your fibs on there, guys, because honestly, like, people think this is just black magic. It's not. You know, again, you probably have a bearish div in there. Bloody hell. Yep. It'll probably take a bit of a reset, and then it'll punch up, I think. Whether you do something similar to this, but on a smaller scale, maybe you do something like this now, and you come back down, you test this, and everyone's going, oh no, we're bears again, only for it to just shoot up and you know, smash the 30k, and then smash above it, and then take a longer rest here, and then, you know, maybe set up for that continuation. Stick to the plan until there's reason to suggest otherwise, guys. Upside's very much the target. I still see people calling for new lows that have been calling for 15k, and it's like, okay, well, you know, you can't rule them out 100%, but just, it's kind of like, this is what this is like, right? It's like being bearish here and then claiming victory when it did something like this. This is what we've seen, you know, bear, drop here. Oh, I was right. You know, I knew this was coming, and then, you know, who knows? Anyway, that's all I've got for you in this video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, like us, appreciate it. So as a comment, I still think altcoins are on a journey, and I think they've got a long way to go whilst Bitcoin's completing this fifth wave and actually are likely to go to overperform substantially. However, you know, the markets to watch for that, of course, Bitcoin dominance. And a number of others. Stock market looks like it doesn't really know what it's doing. I think generally also as well, you know, now that we've had this kind of run, market's just looking for further data to sort of play off. And there's this kind of blackout period that we're in. All I've got for you in this video, guys. You enjoy the content, like as always, appreciate it. So a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gentlemen. See you in the next.